welcome back to my channel. My name is AkuaB and here on this channel I cover all things faith, lifestyle and beauty related, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my review of the film American Gospel. But before I get straight into that, I just want to quickly encourage you to leave a like down below, comment something encouraging for another viewer that passes by, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And let's get straight into it. Okay, so before I quickly get into my review, I just want to provide you with some quick context and give you what the film was about. So I'm going to read the description that is straight from their website, and it says, "Is Christianity Christ plus the American dream? American Gospel examines how the prosperity gospel, the word of faith movement, has distorted the gospel message and how this theology is being exported abroad. This feature-length film is the first in a series." Okay, so what I did was I basically just watched the film the whole way through, and I had my phone up next to me and I wrote down a list of notes, and in today's video I'm just going to be talking around each of those points that I made. So to start off with, I said that the introduction was punchy and convicting. So it talked about the distortion of the gospel, the extortion of the gospel, the way that people's hearts were hardened against this false gospel, convenience, and also a term called moralistic therapeutic deism. Okay, so first off, I just want to quickly summarise this term called moralistic therapeutic deism, and it's basically a form of idolatry, so making your own god. The moralistic part means that people are making their own god to suit their moral standard. The therapeutic part is obviously it makes them feel good, and then the deism is obviously they're making their own god. So this is just a form of idolatry, and that's what was touched on in the film. Another thing that was touched on in this film was the difference between the Bible/religion and the gospel/a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think that is so important because I think sometimes people get so wrapped up in just the process of things, the mechanics of things. You go to church, you tithe, you do this, you do that, you serve, you do this, and people don't actually have that foundational relationship with Jesus Christ, like their actual saviour. They're relying on the processes to get them through and to really speak for their faith. So that is something that it hit on. Another thing that I wrote down as a point was Christian moralism, and I put that it makes it seem like it's all about trying to be good, but you can't. So one of the things that this film really hit home was obviously you're not saved by works but by faith alone. So this is just like trying to abolish the idea that you have to do something in order to reach a certain level as a Christian, or to prove yourself, or to earn your salvation. This Christian moralism, it kind of talked about that and kind of debunked that in the way that it's trying to be fed into churches as if people need to do something to earn salvation. Some of these points that I'm going to talk about are literally just statements or quotes that I really liked from the film, so I'm just going to be chucking those in there like here and there. One of them was to take a good look at Jesus and then you'll know who you are. Don't compare yourself to other humans. So I see this a lot, especially with unbelievers asking me as a Christian, like, well, I knew this Christian that did this, or I knew that this Christian did this and it was okay. And sometimes it can be taken in a negative and sometimes a positive. So sometimes a negative will be like, oh, I saw this Christian drunk, so that must mean that you think that drinking's okay and your religion is false and this and that. And then sometimes it's taken to an extreme positive, like, well, this person doesn't do this, this and this, therefore you don't compare, you fall short of this. And we need to look at Jesus to be the standard, not to other Christians or just other humans in general. Okay, so another thing that this film did really well in articulating was the fact that the gospel solves both pride and despair. So pride is when you feel like you've got this, you can do things by your own strength, by your own works, and then despair is when you feel like you can't attain and that you just simply cannot, like you can't do anything, there's no point to anything, like there's no reasoning, there's no way that you can do something. Whereas the gospel comes in and it says that God resists the prideful, and also it gives us hope, so it rescues us out of despair. So the gospel convicts us, but it doesn't condemn us. And it also says that we can't do things by our own strength, which removes pride and it strips the strength in the facade of pride. Okay, so the next point that I have, and it's just a singular point that came to my mind, it wasn't actually in the film, whilst I was watching it, was stop reciting the script that you've read from your entire life and take a minute to think and go deeper. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in what we've been told, what we've been shown, that we forget to think outside of the box and think that there's another perspective to things, another side to things. And God says that his thoughts are not our thoughts and his ways are not our ways. So we always constantly need to be evaluating ourselves in that way, as to shift our perspective to the way that God sees us and not the way that we see ourselves or that other humans see us. The next thing that I got from this film was that nothing should be added or taken away from the gospel. Not of works, but by faith alone. So this is where I think they were talking about different religions and how different religions are works-based and not solely faith-based like the gospel. Again, in our minds, we think differently from God. So we think there must be something that we need to do to be freed from death and eternal damnation. There must be something we need to do. There must be a certain amount of homeless people I need to feed. There must be a certain amount of times I need to serve at church. There must be a certain amount of things I can say that are nice to other people to make their day. But the gospel says that nothing we do is enough. Nothing. And we're sinful, so we're not good as a sacrifice to be given. Only Jesus could do that for us, and he is our salvation. So another thing that I took from this point surrounding works and things like that is that the law tells us to do, and the gospel says that it is done, it is finished. So in the gospel we have faith, we have hope, and we have that because we know that it's finished, it's done. We can hope in that because it's done. In the law there is no hope, there is no faith, because we always look at the law as a mirror essentially and see all of our flaws, and we see the areas that we fall short. So to just summarise that, the point that I wrote down, the law is due and the gospel is done. Okay, so the penultimate set of points that I want to make starts off with the Old Testament. So the Old Testament was written from an Eastern perspective, and the guy that was narrating this part of the film said something quite interesting. He said in the Old Testament, the Eastern perspective of writing and stuff like that always wrote around the truth, so that the truth was very obvious. And it goes to lengths to make you see all but one blemished with sin, no matter how great they seem. And he gave some examples like Samson and Moses and Abraham, and he just showed that no matter how great this figure was in the Bible, that it always made sure to include a few of their sins or some of their sins, something like that, just to show that no matter how great and utilized an individual was, that no one could compare to Jesus. Okay, so this last section is actually going to completely centre around the prosperity gospel, preachers included, all of that stuff. So the first thing I got was that the gospel is hidden amongst the prosperity talk. So what draws you to the prosperity gospel is having things, is wealth, is health, is material things. Oh, I'm cringing right now just thinking about those words, just saying them in a row, health, wealth. But yeah, so it hides the gospel amongst all of those things, and then the gospel becomes clouded. The guy that was narrating this section of the film actually made a really good comparison, and it said this kind of prosperity gospel is like marrying someone for their money. And I just thought, that is so perverse. God has given us a free gift, and instead of praising him and submitting to him, we're submitting to the gift, and we're actually creating an idol by putting so much attention and praise towards these gifts instead of the giver. Okay, so one of the things that one of the guys was talking about in the film was that God's wonderful plan for your life may include high highs and low lows. So a lot of the people in this film had a strong relationship with Jesus, even though they had terminal illnesses, all of these different things and things that affected their life in a negative way. And I think sometimes it'd be easy to say, oh, well, why should they have trust in God? Why should they have faith in God? Why should they still believe and have a relationship with Jesus? And it's because it's more than that. And actually there was one thing, a quote that I took from this film that really just spoke to me so intensely, because I think sometimes we can get so clouded and boxed into this human life, this really, really small portion of eternity. And there was a guy that had cerebral palsy whilst filming this, and he said, I don't mind if I live this whole life with cerebral palsy. I've got eternity to live without it. And the very last point that I want to make is on preachers, and this is basically the fact that preachers are untouchable, especially in prosperity gospel. I remember in the film there was a lot of people that came to these preachers wanting healing, because they promised healing if you just like gave a certain amount of money to the church, and then or gave a certain amount of money to them, and you'll see amazing healing and stuff like that. And there was people that came in wheelchairs, people that came with their ventilators, all of this different stuff. And one of the guys, I think it was, I don't know if it's Benny Hinn or one of the Hinn family, like the nephew of the really famous Hinn, he came and spoke about how they would purposely keep the visibly disabled people to the back of the auditorium or the back of the church, just so that they wouldn't come to the stage and it wouldn't be visually notable that these healings didn't work. So these preachers are untouchable because they're selling you nothing. They're literally just taking your money and you're not getting anything in return, and that's not what the gospel is about. The gospel doesn't centre around the gifts of Jesus, it centres around Jesus. Jesus is the gospel, Jesus is the answer. Okay, so just to kind of summarise this video, I just want to say that the prosperity gospel is just one of those stones that will eventually trip you up on the way to the wide path of destruction, and we are called to walk the narrow path. So I just want to encourage you to actually read your Bible. It's so important, it's so integral, and God is just saving so many people in these times, and we never know when God is going to come back to earth and just set things straight. So just get into your word, be encouraged by other believers, surround yourself with God-fearing people, and surround yourself with the true gospel. Just because God is a good God, it doesn't mean that he won't let us suffer and he won't chastise us. Following Jesus doesn't always mean peaches and cream and rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes we go through the tough stuff to inspire others, to have others be a witness to our faith. And it's not just about us. Sometimes it is to improve us and to make us more like Christ in our character and in spirit. So yeah, I just want to leave the video here. So make sure you like this video, comment something encouraging for another viewer that passes by down below, and also comment below if you've watched American Gospel and your thoughts on it, and make sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in my next one. Stay blessed and bye!